Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is League Unlock. I am Eric here with Mark and the epic, and I mean epic, more so impossible than epic, countdown continues of the top 20 players of all time. Each 5-player chunk that we do gets harder and harder because you realize there's arguments to be made for someone to slide ahead of somebody. We're past the point where all these guys didn't make the list, which, again, already a tragedy, but these lists are impossible, man. That's it.
It's so hard to whittle down so many fantastic players, so many fantastic personalities, so many amazing contributions to the scene. How to quantify it, how to rank it up against one another. It's a hard task, but that's not what you guys are here for, to hear us complain about this hard task. You're here for us to
I'm
list
here to
out.
complain. That's why I'm here.
Eric and a couple of you are here to complain. That's okay.
Yep.
You can take your seats. But the rest of us, we're here to be entertained, to chat, and relive some of our best memories of these fantastic players.
And again, we've already kind of talked about the criteria that we're seeing here. So we're diving right in to number 15. We do another 5 in this episode, and it is a world champion. And this one is a special one because it's Ruler, spoiler, 80 carat, Gen.G, Samsung, came in 2016 rookie. All of a sudden, Samsung's looking great, run through the gauntlet, get to the World Finals. 2017, they run it back. He gets MVP in the finals. He has the flash Varus ulti onto Faker. But outside of that, the LCK titles aren't there for Ruler, not there for Gen.G. So you might say, how's this guy on this list? Even on teams when Gen.G wasn't looking good, what was the star? Who was the star? Who was the standout performer? It's been Ruler ever since he debuted, basically. From his rookie split to now, he has quickly jumped into a top 380 carry within Korea and never dipped even close to below that.
When you look at the Gen.G organization, even going back to Samsung, and you're thinking about who are their icons, who is the player that you identify with as that organization that carries it forward. Well, it was ambition for so long with Samsung and all the way through their time into getting that world championship with Ruler. And then he moves off. As you said, since then, the face of the organization, the star for Gen.G, the player that you build around, has been Ruler. He has been the one that has been steady enough in his performances, been strong enough in his performances. There's not been a time that you've been able to look at the ADC pool in the LCK and say that Ruler would be outside the top 3 within the last 3-4 years, really, of his pretty much the entirety of his career. You could look at Ruler and say this man has been at the top of his region, one of the best regions in the world. And as you said, one of the best things for me, what we talked about with the players yesterday, having a signature play, having a play that you can say, oh my God, you haven't talked about this guy, you don't like this guy, here's this play, this is going to change your mind. You send him that flash forward to make sure you get that kill onto Faker, of all people, getting it done to make
in
sure
a World
you're
Finals, not just some random other game.
Yeah, making sure that you're sealing down your championship trophy. That's a pretty big deal.
And you touched on it there. I think people, and myself, am also guilty of this sometimes. You think, well, 2017, yeah, Ruler's been great since 2016, 2017, but it's only a couple splits. Guys, we're approaching a half decade since that's been around. Time flies because you might say he doesn't quite have the longevity, but the longevity is absolutely there. 3-4 years you're talking about now. That's a lot more than some other guys that are on this list.
And I think that's where you start to talk about Ruler on this list and how he stays on this list, right? Because for someone like him, I think the next year, 2 years is going to be increasingly important to add accomplishments, to find some extra
LCK
accolades.
Titles to really help.
Needs to start adding that to keep him in a list like this and to even push him further in a list like this. Because as a player like him, what he's shown us so far, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to imagine him keep climbing in this list. But to do so again, and to even stay on this list as the career goes on and as other players make their move, make their mark in the scene, gonna have to add some more accolades to Ruler's list.
And he's got plenty of time to do it. 21 years old, still Ruler, and already accomplished so much. On to number 14 now, and it's all about longevity, one of the great personalities that we have in the pro scene. We're talking First Blood King. We're talking Jankos, who has... Early on, people talked about, oh, he's a choker. He's a choker. He can't do it in the big game, and I never understood that narrative because even on H2K, he was clearly their best performing member, and the rest of the team was not stepping up, and they got a top 4 finish at Worlds. But Jankos has been around since 2014, even on those Roccat teams, those H2K teams that maybe weren't the best. It was time and time again, you're talking about Jankos as the star, the standout performer, constantly picking up all pro nods throughout his career. And by the way, a couple of MVPs now. He's peaked on G2.
It's so incredible to look at the comparisons of obviously the trajectory of his career, the early stages and what people would criticize him for, and then looking at what he's accomplished now at the point of his career, especially with G2 at the very pinnacle and peak of power that the European region has able to accomplish. It really is fantastic. And as we've talked about before, and I think a lot of people as well picked up momentum around Worlds, talking about realizing, look, when you examine all of the stats, when you're talking about, the accomplishments that these players have made, who in the Western region, especially as junglers, stacks up to Jankos? There aren't very much anybody, if anyone at all, that can stack up the amount of finals, amount of trophies, everything that Jankos has been able to put in his cabinet, especially with G2. But as you said, it's always been there with Jankos. When you watched him on H2K or any of these other rosters, it was so clear that this guy was a star. He was going to be a figure and a person in the scene for a long time, given what he was able to do. And to see, again, the success that we've now had with G2 as it keeps piling up, feels really good looking back at Jankos' career.
And people really love to bring up and talk about Diamond Prox when you're talking about greatest Western junglers of all time. And you know what? He has had the longevity for the innovation that he did on Moscow 5 way back in Season 2. He's still been playing professionally in the LCL for years now, but Jankos, in the same time Diamond Prox is going to the LCL to a minor region, Jankos is picking up MVP's titles on G2. And remember, we're only in 2019 where people were ranking Jankos as one of the top players coming into the World Championship. You can debate whether he should have been that high. We had him in the top 5 though, and you couldn't take him outside of that. So after playing for so many years, he's still reaching his peak 5+ years into his career and playing on a world-class level.
Yeah, and it's so important when you're talking with Jankos and how he plays and what he does is examining this past World Championship, because I think a lot of people are going to try to use that to discredit a position here or what he's accomplished in his career without realizing that, this is the outlier when you're talking about how focused it was on, look, need increased performance from Jankos, need this champion pool, need them to show more on these type of champions, just given how different they were to what we had been seeing success with Jankos in the past. And that's not to say that we can't see adaptation from someone like Jankos. If you remember, my man was the best Braum jungler in all of the LEC. So you got to make sure,
tanks, man.
Got to make sure he gets the Braum points here.
And the meme, of course, he hates playing tanks, hates playing Sejuani, but he has looked at his best when he's playing those tanky junglers. But if you're surviving at the front of the jungle class for 5-6 years, you can pretty much handle any meta. And we have seen Jankos absolutely adapt to the times, adapt to what team he's on. And I mean, one of the most likable guys in the professional scene. He's got that going for him too.
You're going to have a hard time finding someone better to have as a teammate. And I'm pretty sure you've seen that with G2 and with Carlos, the amount of times that they like to joke around about, oh, maybe we're going to get Dwayne B to come in to play mid. You know what? The only way that you can be comfortable making jokes like that, which I know is still part of the personality for Carlos, but you're not making jokes like that at someone's expense or in that type of position without having that type of relationship, without having that that amount of comfort with someone like Jankos and having that saying, hey, man, you're our jungler. You know better than to worry about hearing us joke about having Dwayne B come on over. That's what you get with Jankos with G2.
He is the personality, the glue, the secret sauce to this G2 dynasty. And people, don't you ever forget it. Let's put some respect on the best jungler the West has ever seen. We're talking Jankos in at number 14. Number 13, the Baker's Dozen. It's an EU theme today in today's episode, but we're not getting to EU yet. We're getting to the theme of number 15's best pal, CoreJJ, Ruler's old bot lane buddy. He's trained in North America as an AD carry behind Kiwi Kid. We talk about that meme all of the time. Probably one of the greatest role swaps of all time, going over to support. And much like Ruler, it sneaks up on you how long CoreJJ has been around and where their careers separate. When CoreJJ came over to North America, you can weigh competing in the LCK for Ruler but not getting titles, or CoreJJ coming over to the LCS, winning 2 titles, 2 MVPs, and helping carry them to an MSI finals.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that helps weigh with CoreJJ, as far as, how much you're putting into his accomplishments, his successes, even with most of them in the North American region, you're looking at him and how he played and what he's contributed to Team Liquid as far as getting them to, let alone that next stage, that next level, what he did alongside Doublelift, which, yes, a different Doublelift than the Doublelift we saw this past year, I would say, as far as performance, but absolutely nobody, even at their peak of play, would be looking at that bot lane and going, yeah, that's all Doublelift. No. For the most part, I think a lot of people, the actual answer of who you'd be giving the most credit to, it would have been CoreJJ. Most people
I feel like Doublelift did that himself.
Right, and that is in full service of what CoreJJ brought to the table, what he's done. As you said, starting out, coming over to North America, back in the Dignitas days, playing different position. Now, revamped, reborn,
everything
reutilized.
Seems brighter when you're not playing AD carry on Dignitas.
Everything away from Dignitas in general seems usually a little bit brighter. And that was exactly what happened for CoreJJ's career. Of course, going over and being with Gen.G, being with Samsung, loved what he did there. Thought that was the stepping stones to the greatness that we have seen already so far. And then even talking about his, kind of the other contributions that he can make to the game, to the scene, the impact that you can feel. We just talked about it a little bit ago, the in-houses that he's been doing here in North America to try and get things motivated, trying to get things going.
CoreJJ.
And look, this isn't us being, blind or ignorant that there haven't been in-houses or attempts at things like this in the past in North America. But to have a player of CoreJJ's significance, to have it with his motivation, his tenacity at making sure that, guys, let's get our in-houses organized. Let's make sure we got everything going right from the spear front of him. Absolutely love to see stuff like that. It's all part of the package that makes up the CoreJJ experience, and we love having him.
Yeah, he's just a perfect lead by example type of player. You've seen in all the behind the scenes. You've seen when he does interviews with Crown or other former teammates, just the way he talks about the game and even stuff outside of the game. But remember, Samsung really became Samsung and dominated the gauntlet when CoreJJ came into the lineup and was fully the starter. That's when their run started going, and then obviously Samsung as an org said, you know what, maybe you'll continue to start, and he ended up being a top 3 support in the world for many years, and even in North America, more than Bjergsen, more than Doublelift now. He's the one player in the LCS that you're talking about when you go internationally, being in that world class or bordering on some of these lists, top 20s, whatever, at the MSIs or the World Championships of the world. And that is why we got him at that number 13 spot, deserving the consistency, longevity, and the titles now are there for him as well. Number 12 is where the EU theme shifts back. And this is, some people might say it's pretty high to be having a lot of these EU players approaching the top 10 for some of them, or spoilers, maybe even within the top 10. But number 12 is Reckless, the Swedish Superman, the man who has been playing since 2012, by the way, and now Doublelift retiring. It's Reckless is this old guard who's just outlasting and watching everyone that he's competed with slowly fade away, and he's only getting better. He's playing almost 10 years. He's only getting better at the game, Mark.
I was going to say, you might be able to look statistically, find better splits, better seasons from Reckless. But as far as what I saw this past year, what I saw from, let alone a mechanical standpoint, from the mental standpoint, Reckless has never been better. And absolutely, you better believe G2 eSports are pretty damn happy that he has never been better than now, because to be better now than what the past of Reckless has been, oh boy, that's a hard sell to make to a lot of people, because how can you possibly be better than what has been the best that the European region has ever seen from the ADC position. It's a hard task to ask, my man.
And people love to bring up certain tournaments, certain international events where, listen, Reckless is often incredibly hyped up coming into these events, either coming off an MVP, a title, or a dominant split. I'm thinking 2015 Worlds, 2018 MSI, where he was incredibly hyped up, 18-0 Fnatic, MVP in spring, and then maybe doesn't quite live up to that level. But that's only really 2 tournaments that I feel like you can justify saying that. And think of how many international events this guy has been to. He's only not made it out of groups at Worlds once, way back in 2014. It's the opposite end of the spectrum to him and Doublelift, whose careers have been so often linked throughout.
When you talk about the haters for Reckless and the people that dismiss the accomplishments that he's done throughout any point of his career, you had a lot of people that don't like, the pretty boy with the tattoos, with an attitude, willing to put himself.
He's a KDA player. Ooh.
Yeah, willing to put himself out there, and the whole ADC style and everything else that they didn't like about Reckless. Man, I'm throwing that out the side. Come on, man, you're really gonna let those type of situations and maybe slight underperformances at certain moments play into your mindset is something crazy to me, given what you've seen, what we've been given from someone like Reckless, all the moments, all the plays. Again, as you said, the longevity, and to talk about him at a peak, to talk about him still redefining himself, still getting better, still improving and being more optimized. You can't say that about even a handful of professional players. But even when you nail it down, Reckless is truly, I think, as far as professional goes, especially, hey, we're talking about guys playing video games as a profession. That, I think, Reckless to me is one of the few players that really identifies as a professional.
And you want to bring up those individual tournaments where he underperformed. Let's bring up the ones where he was fantastic. Okay, 2017 Worlds, the 2018 Finals against G2, 2018 Worlds, 2019 Worlds, 2020 Worlds. So, I mean, the not overperforming, but playing to expectation and playing at a world-class level far outweigh these underperforming tournaments that he's had.
And I think his move to G2 speaks volumes to what people think of Reckless, how much they respect him and what he's done for the European scene and what he's done in his career by not having the reaction, oh my God, he's a sellout. Oh my God, how could he go to the
Riot? He wants the dubs, man. He wants to win.
Exactly. Everybody identifies, you know what? The one thing Reckless wants more than anything, more than making people happy, to keep a legacy, to keep everything with Fnatic, he wants to win. What more can you ask for from a champion, from a player like that at this level, in this, to be ranked this highly in our list, than to be having that drive for success, that drive to win so much? You love to see that.
He wants the biggest trophy, man. He's hunting for that biggest trophy, and maybe he'll even get the Summoner's Cup added to his tattoo sleeve. Get it before Worlds actually starts, because that's the way to do it. You got to predict the outcome.
You get the prediction discount. That's how it always works.
Yeah, and then you look cool and you look badass that you predicted it before it happened. Final player on our list for 15 to 11. It's someone who's a little bit familiar with Reckless, probably been the main rival and his, former player on G2, the man that Reckless came to replace. We're talking about Perks, and he's just... You're immediately talking about him in the conversation as the greatest Western player of all time. Obviously, that's the case when he's going to be this high on a list. This isn't top 20 Western players of all time, top 20 ever. And Perks, for the vacation memes and the 2017 Worlds memes, since that time, he has absolutely shut down any doubt, any questions about him performing internationally or against other regions. And by the way, he did it in 2 different roles.
2018, man, I will bring that up all the time. 2018 quarterfinals against RNG. That
Best
is
individual performance of all time.
One of my favorite series of all times, and one of the ones that I am extremely fortunate to have been in person for. And I tell you what, everybody, didn't matter if you were even an RNG fan, no matter how frustrated you were that your team was losing games. Oh my goodness, the dream run is going to come to an end. How can we not have Uzi keep going forward? All those things going through your mind. And yet still, You know what I saw from so many of the Chinese fans when you would see an amazing play from Perks, when he would make another outplay on the LeBlanc to pick up a solo kill. Every single time it was just, oh my God, this guy's so good. You can't, again, it's one of those situations where you can't be mad because he's just that good, is what you're seeing from him. And pretty much with Perks, the things that he says, the attitude that he's got, the confidence that he's got, the cockiness.
Should be confident.
Hey, he backs it up with those plays that leave you going, you know what? That guy styled on me. He's just too good. He's just too good. I can't be mad. That's the story of what Perks has brought to the table. As you said, there have been a few disappointments, but those are so minute and so small in comparison to the highs that we've seen from Perks and what he's been able to do in such a short amount of time. But that short amount of time is the entirety of his career.
Yeah, and you talk about some of those early disappointments. It was literally his first year as a professional player in the LEC, and even in 2017, okay, you say Worlds, they didn't get out of groups. It was the hardest group in the tournament, and that was still the year they went to the finals at MSI.
And that's hardly a thing that you could pinpoint on one player, let alone Perks.
And they didn't go 0-6. They didn't go 0-6. It was a 3-3 dream for them. But I mean, you talk about iconic clutch moments, the iconic plays throughout his career. You're talking about getting solo kills on Faker in the MSI finals, that RNG game 5, which I stand by being the best individual game 5 performance.
Kills Uzi from over a screen away on the LeBlanc. What's he supposed to do?
He's supposed to go home in quarterfinals in a big upset. And then even the Yasuo play against SKT to get them into the World Finals. That's an insane career highlight reel for clutch plays to come out.
I think that's something that unfortunately gets blown over by a lot of people with the failures of G2 recently in those finals. I think a lot of people discredit the amount of work, the amount of accomplishments, the significance of getting to that point just based off of the results in those actual matches, which sure, more than fair to be disappointed, to have issues with the way that they play in those finals. But to not give them credit for getting there in the first place and the significance of being able to do that multiple times back-to-back years, hey, we're on different pages then, buddy.
8 LEC titles in his first 10 splits, approaching double-digit titles domestically. That's Faker territory, man. That's only something Faker, his 45th LCK title. Yeah, fantastic, as expected. But you don't see that in other regions, and Perks is approaching that. Probably won't break it because he doesn't play in the LEC anymore. But
he's going hard mode, man. He's gotten over to the LCS now, where he's got to add 2 LCS trophies to equal an LEC one, according to people.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, he'll need about 16 LCS trophies to match that.
Not bad.
Not bad. Not out of the realm of possibility for a guy like Perks, who has proven it on every single stage that he's played on so far.
I would love to see some incredible success for Perks and Cloud9 with this move. Let's not see 16 straight trophies to the same team in the LCS, please.
We'll throw a break in there. Maybe one year TSM squeezes one out there, or FlyQuest gets their first ever. But Perks just outside the top 10 for top 20 players of all time. That is all the time today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. We will continue the countdown later as we reach the top 10, but for now, we'll catch you guys and gals on the flippity flop.